Welcome you to the review of Goblin Burrow. Goblin Burrow is an adult management game divided into turns, where we play the role of the administrator of the title den. And I know some of you already have 1,000 questions, but I can only answer them one by one. The first question will probably be, is the game set in the Goblin Slayer universe?
The law requires that I answer no.
But seriously, if you told me its official character design, I would believe it. And for those who do not know this universe, imagine D&D sessions with some game master fetishes, where people are eaten and other people are eaten differently, where most fans support the main character, as always in that kind of story. But there is also a large number of fans who are impatiently waiting for a different kind of content. And they are fans of this different eating process too. And knowing that, you are on the same level as most fans, and the rest you will discover in the review. And, as I am a fan of this universe, Goblin Slayer will accompany me in the review. Because maybe I'll finally find a use for the memes I've been collecting since 2018. So find a good club, put on a loincloth, and cover the eyes of your figure. Because now we're finally starting the review. So we start out as a goblin and the leader of a little tribe, where our goal will be its development and survival. A standard Japanese management sim with limited time and resources. And in this case, it is strongly focused on replayability. And probably the more familiar people with the Goblin Slayer universe will ask question about increasing number of our troops. Namely, there are no female goblins in this universe, as well as in many other fantasy worlds. But reproduction still occurs through sexual intercourse. Therefore, as a tribe chief, our duty is to confiscate women of other races, where practically the gains of the goblin tribe will be treated as toys and children generators, plus the related mechanic to throw them some food from time to time, so that they do not think too much about their situation, and do not commit suicide from despair. Yes, shit go from 0 to 100 really quickly. And here, as a reviewer, I must praise Goblin Burrow as an 18+ game. I mean, not for the choices about the universe, but for the mechanics. Many adult games struggle to combine their content with the game mechanics. It often happens that both of these elements are mutually exclusive. However, here is a perfect example of 18+ content closely related to the gameplay. I'm not saying that every game has the ability to achieve something like this, but it should be praised when the opportunity presents itself. Because in future productions we will sometimes have quite interesting dilemmas to solve for 18+ games. But let's not look too far into the future. Coming back to the nature aspect with the goblins. Different goblin partners have different stats. For example, magic enhancement. Generations born through such crossbreeding will have slightly increased statistics in this area. And once again, if these goblin sons visit their mom, the next generation will have stats increased by another point. And thanks to this, we can play a kind of interspecies crossbreeding like in breeding season, only instead of catgirls we crossbreed goblins. Then there are new spells, stat-increasing items, and finally different species of goblins themselves. And it gives us the mechanics of easy to learn, but hard to master, and provides fun for many hours. And when we no longer need the older generations, game gives us many opportunities to retire them off. What our guest knows perfectly well, so maybe let's move to the combat system. It is a turn-based, so opponents take turns to land blows or cast spells, where the initiative always belongs to the attacker. Armies are divided into front and rear as well as left flank and right flank. And each squad is divided into a commander and his soldiers. And according to Goblin combat tactics, enemies must smash through the cannon fodder to start dealing damage to the commander at all. So this is a good time to meet our warriors. For starters, basic goblins. Nothing worth attention. Throughout the game, you produce them a lot, and you will lose as much. Always useful as cannon fodder. Now genetics comes to play. You see, at the conception ceremony, there's a chance that something bigger will appear in our army. And here comes the hobgoblin, a much larger and stronger individual, who is superior to the ordinary goblins in case of strength. But he can hardly count to 5. Because of this, that also is a number of his bodyguards when he is in command. Goblin shaman. Now it's getting interesting because magic is finally coming into play. See, when we capture the right specimens, there are times when some of them know magic. With the right genes and crossbreeding we can teach our shamans up to 2 different spells. The main opponent is a strong mage? Bring 2 shamans to the battlefield with the magic drain and problem vanishes in the first round. Is your opponent strong offensively? Bring defensive spells. Oh, they playing defensively? Maybe a magic missile spell or an attack boost. A shaman can be the king of the battlefield, provided you have taken the time to breed the right beast. And the fact that he is very squishy on the battlefield. And when his mana runs out, he won't do much, is probably obvious. And now enters Goblin Champion. And he enters like a truck. RPG build where everything was put on strength. He has huge problems if the opponent survives his hit because the champion has a weak defense. And the number of his minions is also not great. But 9 out of 10 times is not a problem. If the shaman provides him with defensive support or someone else will do the tank job.
Holy look at all this damage!
The champion is capable of smashing all his opponent by himself, and he will be non-stop laughing during this time. And speaking of some defensive abilities, let's talk about Goblin Paladin. He has magic, good defense, okay offensive and nice leadership skills. Need a tank on the battlefield? No problem. Do you have to go on the offensive? Or work as support? Or a healer? The Paladin can easily take care of it. It is not perfect in any area, but it is very far from being a bad unit. And at the end the Goblin Lord. He fights very good, because under his command, usually serve dozens of ordinary goblins. And in magic, he is second only to a shaman. However, to get even one, you need a lot of luck, and a breeding program worthy of a Queen of England. And the Lord himself prefers the Chinese military strategy of great losses. If these losses were suffered by the opponent, it is only a bonus. After all, there are no good battles without great losses. Therefore, if your child factories cannot replace hundreds of goblins in 2 turns, your den is not worthy of the Goblin Lord and his military genius. I will skip the Goblin Riders and Hobgoblins with living shields, because you can get them only through a series of challenges. Now let's get back to what I mentioned earlier, namely turn-based system. The game is divided into days and we can only perform 3 actions each day. And time passes without mercy. Plus its role is much more than provide information about day of the month. For example, our headquarters will be attacked on the 5th day. On the 7th, a new location will appear on the map that threatens our lair. And with the passage of time, the attacks become stronger and the new locations will test our army in extreme conditions. As for the number of action points during the day, so you think that starting the action with the Goblin Baby Factory is free? You must also plan carefully about who will visit the breeding chambers. Some characters have a chance of giving birth to stronger goblins. But there will be only a few of them, while others focus more of quantity over quality. And don't forget to feed them, which of course also consumes valuable action point. So when it's a feeding day, let everyone eat as much as possible, because the next one is a week away. For action points, we can also prepare traps if we have the right materials, which can destroy the enemy, heal our troops, or even make one of our units immortal for several rounds of combat. Remember, a good burrow is one that is mined like the border between South and North Korea. And of course, trips to various locations, where we obtain materials for traps and food. Or new volunteers, for the winner of the Mother of the Year award, which naturally, also cost action points. And if neither of these things fits your brilliant strategy, you can always perform large-scale military maneuvers. Well, it is somewhat true the half of your goblins will die. But half of what survives will learn that when you hear, "Get down," you don't ask, "What?" Interestingly, the bonuses from these trainings pass to all future goblins, both from this cave and future ones. So don't underestimate this training just because the goblins are dying. This is half true. Only weak goblins are dying. As for the future burrows, do you really think that with ordinary goblins you can defeat powerful mages, great armies, or heroes chosen by gods with holy swords? No. But as befits a real goblin, only failure will teach you something. Every time our burrow falls, because our defense has broken, or because of our stupidity or weakness, we can always take the remaining goblins, accumulated supplies and all stat upgrades, to start over. If you think this is a 2 hours game, you are wrong. If you think you will be a champion after a week, you also are wrong. It's a long-distance game, where we go from one failure to another. but always a little stronger. And if you think like me at the beginning, that a little of save scamming will save you, go ahead and try. Adapt your army to your opponents, organize your defense against attacks that should come as a surprise. This unfortunately does more harm to you Burrow in the long term. When you realize that this army is invincible, no matter what strategy you will use, then you will curse yourself from the past, because instead of investing in long-term resources, you pushed ahead, at all cost. But hey, you can always try. What a idiot saying that you can't do it, right? But what I described should be enough to convince you that this is not a good game. It is a great game with 18+ elements perfectly implemented. Now let's move on to standard descriptions, aka, story, art and music. Story. So you are a goblin, and the whole world wants to kill you. You need females of other races to reproduce, so you go hunting. Yes, we are the baddies and you should probably not expect a deep development of the characters like in novel by King. World is practically a one-to-one Goblin Slayer universe, only more realistic. Because elves are the source of all evil and are even bigger assholes. As I said, more realistic. As for the female characters, which unfortunately, will be crushed by wheels of the Goblin war machine. These stories are okay. All of them have been given a bit of character. It's a pity all those dreams will end up in the toilet when they end up in the Goblin Den. What a wholesome game. Now graphic design. I really like the use of pixel art. Of course, I can't show the good fragments because the sprites are the size of a postage stamp. But this art surprisingly fits the atmosphere of this game and its mechanics, where we watch our kingdom slowly grow from above. As for the girls themselves, there are so many of them that everyone will be lucky enough, and will find something for themselves. Unfortunately, you can't say that a girl you will like the most, will be lucky. Apart from the elves. They had it coming. And finally the sound layer. The music fits very well, adequately reflecting the atmosphere of the game. Even a little too much. Mainly the ominous tones that intensify what is happening on the screen. Game, I know I'm terrible person because I'm playing this. You don't have to remind me of this every 2 minutes with some Addams Family soundtrack. Of course, not all songs are like that, and I'm exaggerating a bit. But be aware of that heavy instrumental music, that will suck joy out of you. And finally, the cherry on top, voice acting. Each of the female characters has their own lines readed. Considering the number of characters, and that the characters have their conversations at different degrees of sanity. Plus the fact that we have several types of goblins, gives us a lot of quality content in total. Additionally, I love the narrator attitude. Well, if you the one of individuals mentioned earlier in the video, this game is practically a must-have. If not, the game still defends itself, and the fact that the 18+ elements are so well implemented in it, is just chef kiss. So, some of you will ask where to get this game. And you see, there is a problem here. Because the game was never released in the West. Okay. A short lesson about 18+ games, published by the Japanese on the Western market. Let's say the game is released on Steam in a censored version. People are downloading the 18+ patch and everyone is happy. The problem with Goblin Burrow is that 18+ elements blend too well with the gameplay. Heck, you can't just censor them because then you don't have the game at all. For this to pass on Steam, the publisher would have to sell a photo of the game, and the rest to be downloaded in a fan-made patch. And I rather doubt that something like this would pass on Steam. And other markets for 18+ games? Maybe, but the question is whether it's profitable to the publisher to translate the game. Let's say only for Faku. I am not saying that this will not happen, or that Steam will not change its policy. Maybe, when this video will be released, the game will be just announced for the Western market. But there is a lot to translate in the game and the profit may be small, so I really don't know. However, this did not prevent the fans from translating this production for free. You see, the 18+ game market taught me a few things. One of them is that if you give a guy a spoon, and you tell him if he digs a channel, he'll see the boobies. Dear God help us all, because the Suez Canal compared to that channel, will be look like a dog has dug up a hole and urinated into it. I swear that the heroes from Greek myths have not disappeared, only now they work in 18+ game industry as translators. And I'm just here to witness it. So, if you will find the game translated in dark places on the internet, the fun will not stop there because you will need an emulator, unless you prefer to switch the BIOS to Japanese. Personally, I recommend this one, link in the description. To break the Japanese monopoly, we needed Chinese.
Ironic.
But when it comes to some bigger gameplay tips, unfortunately, I can't help you here. I am not the smart one when it comes to turn-based fights. And the help provided by the creators. Let's say I read slowly. So unfortunately you will have to check forums, comments or fanwiki, to become a champion in this game. Because I have already gave up. And, after the game, if you will still not be satisfied from newly discovered reasons, then I recommend the Goblin Slayer manga. Unless you prefer something that moves and has color, then you can try anime. Or if you like reading, you can try books too. This is not my business. Personally, I think manga is the best medium, but that's just my opinion. And Goblin Slayer says goodbye to you. You'll probably see him sometime in the sequel, Goblin Burrow, I Will Born. But it's in the distant future. Now you can prepare a heavy flamer because the time of heresy has come. But that's in the next review. Big Mike. See you next time.